Liquorland are proud partners of the Sash for another season of footy. Liquorland have all your drinks needs for when the siren calls. It was a lovely, cool autumn weekend. Jesse, did you factor in a Liquorland visit by any chance?
I actually did. I was down in Yea. Well, down, up. It's north.
Yep.
North?
We'll say up, yep.
North. And it was nice. Nice weekend. We normally go for a bit of a Yulumbra Pinot Grigio, but I didn't know they had the Yulumbra red range. So if anyone's interested in a pretty affordable, good red wine, I would say go the Yulumbra.
Beautiful, beautiful. Pop into your local Liquorland today and pick up all your favourite drinks. Liquorland, from the land you love. Please drink responsibly. Geelong hits us early. Hawkins dominates up forward. Packo and Weid put in a shift, but it wasn't enough to stop the experienced Cats. This is The Sash, definitely not the official podcast of the Essendon Football Club. I'm your host, Rob, here with you, and joining me at Castaway Studio is Jesse. Hello, mate.
Hi.
How are you?
Not as dark as I thought I would be after where we were at after quarter time. I thought it could well and truly be funeral time. No, I didn't think that, but yeah, I'm pretty good. Pretty good. Had a nice weekend away. Obviously not ideal watching the boys yesterday, but I mean, they're a bloody good team. So what can you expect, really?
Yeah. I can't say I'm surprised with the result. I don't think many of us are. Like, I don't know anyone who tipped Geelong, and I think I even mentioned it in our group thread in November last year when the fixture came out, and I was like, guys, Geelong 5-day break after Anzac Day, pencil in a loss, I reckon. Yeah. Could have been a lot worse. I'm proud that we made it a competitive game for most of it, but yeah, it was disappointing to relive 2022 all over again in that first quarter.
Yeah, I'm just glad I wasn't there this time. Were you there?
I was there, yes.
What was it like, atmosphere-wise? It seemed like it got up and about in the third quarter. That would have been enjoyable.
Yeah, it did. I mean, yeah, very, very chill early on. I would say Geelong fans, by their nature, are a very placid supporter base. I think when you've been up the top of the tail for so long, and I think they're very much happy, like,
they're a grandma
team.
Football club.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it. Like,
respect to the grannies out there.
Yeah, exactly.
They are a grandma football club.
Yeah, I wouldn't pick them as a provocative supporter base. That, country game, 1 o'clock start, plenty of kids around. It was a pretty low-key atmosphere. And, like, there was a little kid in front of us who was jumping up and down, every time Hawkins kicked a goal. But, there was just a lot of people going like, oh, here we go. But, yeah, the crowd definitely got going in the third when there was a sniff that we might have had a comeback potentially happening. But, yeah, unfortunately that was quelled pretty quickly. Let's start with the first term. I think that's where we can sort of begin our review and reflections of what happened.
Take a breath.
Yeah, I do feel like the first term is really where that short break is evident. I was chatting to someone about it today, and yes, obviously there's an argument to the fact that later in the game that you'll slow down and be tired, but at the start it takes a bit of time to get going. And even if you look at the Adelaide Collingwood game, and unfortunately Collingwood were able to pull off the win that we couldn't, they also had a really, really slow start in that game, and the other team jumped them essentially. Unfortunately, in our case, Geelong did the damage, which we couldn't fix. And there's one thing playing Geelong, and like I felt it last year, and I definitely felt it again sitting there on Sunday. You really notice how small Essendon is as a side compared to some other teams, particularly Geelong. Maybe Geelong are just a big team, but man, there was a lot of times in that game that was like men against boys, whether it's, Hawkins or BZT, Dangerfield on any of our midfielders. Like, you just look at our guys and you're like, are we really that small, or are they just massive? Because it seemed like just about every player on their team, bar like a couple of their small forwards, were just monsters compared to our guys. I'm not sure how you thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, I would say, symbolic of where both lists are at in terms of their age, success. I mean, they won the premiership for a reason last year, and experience, a lot of people boil that down to games played, but there's also experience in terms of backing up multiple preseasons, having an experienced size, extra kilos on you. And you could tell there was a significant age gap and experience gap, both through games played and just physicality. And it was really, really evident. It was actually, I don't think there's probably any team that we match up against worse than Geelong in the AFL.
Right now, I'd agree, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it really begs the question to just the whole comparison of our defence is something that, I mean, Laverty is so important to us as a player. I still don't think that Laverty could go with a Hawkins though, or maybe a Cameron, but it really does raise the question as to whether or not, you know, we do possibly look at having someone fill that role as a more mature body, you know, bringing in someone from a different club. I know that Ben Mackay is out of contract at the end of the year. I mean, he'd be a great pickup. I don't know if it's too brash to sort of look at filling a hole, given we're sort of moving forward with that development strategy. We've obviously got Reid, but he's going to take another 3 or 4 years to get his body even close to being able to compete with big forwards like that. What's your take on the possibility of looking at bringing someone in?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I feel bad for BZT. I feel bad from getting that max up.
It's a tough gig.
It is a very, very tough gig. It was very clear that we were undersized. We knew that coming in. We knew it was going to be hard. Other thing as well, Tom Hawkins is as Brad Scott said after the game, he is a generational forward. Yes, that was his career best game of kicking 8 goals, but you've seen him in countless games the other side where he just ragdolls defenders. But you are right. If you look at what separates us right now from, let's say, the top 4 teams at the moment, the flag favourites, Collingwood, Melbourne, we'll say Geelong and Brisbane, we'll say they're the 4. All 4 of those teams have an absolute rock defender and then a couple of other guys around them who do the rest. Right now, we don't have that person yet. It could be BZT one day. Maybe it could be Ridley one day. Maybe it could be Reid one day. But right now, we are away, we are potentially several years away from that being the case, unless, like you say, we do look to bring in someone else. I feel like it'd be silly for them not to look around. I feel like, our recruitment team, for all the, the shit that they cop, I'm sure they're sitting there going, this is an issue. And you look at the other guys that we could potentially throw in there, like, he may have, dropped off the face of the earth, but, James Stewart's a big body. He would have been handy just to muscle against Hawkins. Yeah, all right, he's not an accomplished defender by any stretch, but there's a big body there. And if he's looking like he might not play again, then I think we'd be foolish not to. And that's not me saying, the guys we have now will never be that, or, the development isn't the right way to go, but you still need to be looking to improve all the time. And the trade window is a great way of doing that. So, yeah, I think it would be smart for us to look for more depth in that area, like we did with Peter Wright, like we've done with Setterfield, and Wiedemann as well. It's quite clear this season, this is where our deficiency is. We need more key defensive stocks. We should continue developing the guys that we've got, and fingers crossed they become what we want them to become.
But we're riding a lot on that being the case without any contingency, really.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a tough one, because do you throw the kitchen sink at a good, young, more mature, key back like a Mackay or a Collins or even a Sam Taylor, for instance, from GWS, and you are going to have to possibly look at giving up draft picks for a player like that? Or do you just back in and go for broke with what we have? I mean, obviously we do have, I forget the name, Lewis Taylor, is it? Is that the name of the...
Hayes. Is it Lewis Hayes? Yeah.
Lewis Hayes.
Yeah.
Lewis Hayes we picked up in the draft, and he's another fairly tall defender, but it seems as if we're sort of, Dodoro's living in the 90s still drafting Dustin Fletchers. I feel like
a lot of, sorry to cut you off, but I feel like a lot of young key position players are often that. And like you look at some of the best key defenders in the game and in history, they've all copped a bath at some stage in their development. Cale Hooker copped many before he became the guy that he was. So did Dustin Fletcher, and he played against the best forwards the Rugby ever were. So I think that is just part of it. But
unless you get them from West Coast, because West Coast has an uncanny recruiting technique to just pick up 18-year-olds that are built like 28-year-olds. And I don't know where they get them from. So maybe we need to look at what they're doing.
They're
because
out on the paddock somewhere.
There's no team that has bigger, younger key position players, I reckon, than West Coast. They just, and half of them only ever play 10, 15 games, but they're all ginormous.
Yeah. I mean, Geelong have some pretty good guys. And man, you think about defensive depth. They have the ability to have Radigalia, DeConning, Stewart,
Blitzars when necessary.
Blitzars when they need to. Kolajasny. Who's the other one? There's one that's injured that's not playing.
Guthrie played pretty good as well. I guess he's not key. But...
No, who's the one? His brother just came over from Collingwood. Henry's the other one. Yeah. Like, again,
he's a jet.
Just so much. They've got so much depth there in that position. And this is also just part of us being experienced, is that we've got a bunch of guys who play that role, but they are, between 18 and 23 as opposed to, 24 and 30, for instance, which is just where their list is at. And I guess it can often boil down to the club, the hierarchy going, okay, where do we actually think is our window of contention? Because you don't want to do a scenario where, like you say, we throw the kitchen sink at a club for some player and then we actually go, yeah, we're actually still a bit of a way off and then we've jumped the gun, you know what I mean? Or is it let's get some guys to develop? And going by what we've done in the last couple of windows, like I can't see us going for anyone who's over the age of 25.
Neither. And that means a lot to put on the table for a key position player like that.
But if a free agent who is talented and fills the criteria of what we are lacking in that space is available, absolutely we should.
Are there any key backs in that free agency this year?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I try to avoid thinking about that sort of stuff until later in the season.
Yeah, it's usually pretty early.
It's usually post-funeral for me. Post-funeral is when I'm like, how is Cal Twomey's Phantom Guide for the draft looking? That's that. I like to hold off until then. But look, you raise a good point. It's something I think a lot of us are definitely thinking on the weekend.
It's not panic stations.
No,
by all means. We've been a good defense this year,
and BCT's been pretty awesome up until this week.
Yeah, and I just can't see his physique though putting on a huge amount of size though. I can't see him. He seems similar to like the Ridley type where he is quite lean. Yeah. And I'm just not sure we really have anyone in our defense at the moment that will end up being 90, 95 kilos.
I don't know. I mean, look, I think Reed could one day because he's just so big.
So tall.
But I'd say Harris Andrews is probably in that ilk where he's over 200 centimetre guy, but you wouldn't look at him and think he's just a muscle monster. He's just a big dude. And that's sort of based on it. And again, remember, Tom Hawkins is like once Tom Hawkins retires, there aren't any other forwards like that.
No.
You know what I mean? Like there are some strong power forwards,
but not like that.
They're smaller guys.
Fridges.
Like my check's a big strong forward, but he's, however many inches shorter.
Yeah.
So this guy is just a bit of an anomaly. And like you say, it's just where we match up really poorly, unfortunately. But then you look around the comp and you look at the next gen of forwards, BCT's played awesome on the King brothers.
Yeah.
Mackay, he's not really a problem for us, recently. Although I'm sure if I look at the stats, he's probably kicked heaps in us. Like obviously there are guys like Curnow who are just absolute freaks. But yeah, I get your point. It's an area that we are lacking depth and we should address it. But I don't think it's oh my God, we need a savior. But it is a point of difference to us and that next tier of teams.
Yeah,
might do a video about this on Wednesday. I think this is a good discussion. I'll do some research and
I think it was also. And I didn't really think that I was going to say this, but it was quite evident also not having Heppel play at halfback, I felt, over the weekend. It was a a position on the ground I felt we looked really weak and small, having Hind and D'Ambrosio rotate through there. And I don't really think either of them played particularly well. I know that might sound harsh on Hind, but I just don't think that Hind was very damaging. And it was not even really, I'm not looking for a halfback at this point in time, particularly over the weekend, to play an attacking role. It was more the defensive work. Both of them seem like, and we know that they both have been questioned over their defensive their defensive work, but it really did show over the weekend just not having a bit more size there. And I'm just really, and it made me think just about Coxie. And I was just thinking,
one day,
I'm just so keen to see him at halfback. I think he is the person that fills Heppel's role.
Interesting.
I mean, they had him training there throughout the preseason, and I'd just love to see Cox and Reid.
I'd like to see him. I'd like to see both of them fit and playing in our side. I think it's what most people want. Yeah, the back line had its issues. That first quarter though, there's plenty of times there where you go, I don't think even the best defenders are stopping these balls coming in. Like when Paddy Dangerfield is literally putting it on a platter for Cameron or Hawkins, no one's getting there.
Yeah,
and
1-on-1 as well.
Yeah, and
no support.
And particularly in that first 15 or 20, our mids got smashed. They got absolutely smashed. Credit to them, they turned the table and actually won that area for a lot of the game afterwards. But yeah, it
really was Dangerfield though. He was amazing in that first 5 or 10 minutes. I can't actually remember seeing him play better than that. He won almost everything out of the middle.
I watched what was it? First crack?
Yeah.
And he played Dangerfield 68% of the game. He played the least amount of time after anyone excluding the subs, which is incredible. And they're talking about all about management and stuff like this. And he won them the game. He just came in.
He had like 15 inside 50s or something.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
He almost broke the record for inside 50s, only playing under 70%.
Wow.
And it's crazy to think how much that one guy has just smashed us. And yeah, these are those kind of anomaly players who we just don't seem to be able to handle. And Danger's been one of those guys who over the history has hurt us. One thing that really frustrated me when we did seem to have a bit of momentum was just some absolute, coach killer turnovers.
Setterfield was really poor in the first half. He made some really bad errors. There was a couple of times he turned the ball over, and I don't really like singling out players, but there was. I agree with you. There was just like hands on your head, but it was moment for everyone.
But there's a thing. Like I know you've named him there, and yeah, for the amazing games that he's played for Essendon so far, this is probably the worst one. Like it was bad. Like you can't play good every game. That's just going to happen. But it felt like it was.
Still love your setters, don't worry.
Oh, we do. But it felt like it was everyone. Everyone was having these issues.
It was just pressure, though. I think. Like
there was. So there were some dumb ones like Redmond and BZT where they switched it to no one. There were some unlucky ones where Nick Martin thought he had an Essendon player behind him and Dangerfield just conned him into
so bad.
And just
in critical moments as well.
And they were just like a lot of these brain fades. Then there were just some genuinely bad use, particularly out of the back half, which was really frustrating.
Yeah. It really cost us the game in the end. Like people talk about the first 5 or 10 minutes where they really kicked those sort of 5 or 6 goals. But there was 5 or 6 times we turned over the ball in our back half really badly that resulted in goals.
Yeah.
And that was ultimately the difference.
Yeah. They smashed us at stoppages and they smashed us off turnovers, which is,
the age-old story.
The age-old story. I mean, look, I can single out some guys by use, but look, we love them on the show, but I think Mass will probably have some time in the VFL after that game. I was like, I love the way he attacks the game, but I was pretty disappointed by the way Pidge used the ball compared to the week before where I thought he was awesome.
Yeah.
And then the other one was another 2 weeks in a row off the back of their heroic game where we really had no influence from our rucks.
Yeah.
And
neither of them took a single mark.
No marks from either of them. And I think Hawkins and Tom Stewart took 22 or 24 between them
crazy.
at either end. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens to the team sheet for our next game, but I wouldn't be surprised if we either see Jones in, meaning Wiedemann pinch hits, or Nick Bryan gets a run. I think he got subbed out, and they said it might have been an injury, but
was this Phillips?
I think Flip's due for his
1 week
monthly week off, and then come back in because he's fallen from the lofty heights of Adelaide Oval.
It's just a shame. It's a massive shame. And look, unfortunately, Phillips gets brought into sort of the limelight, but Draper was equally as ineffective over the weekend. I mean, he may have had more touches, but the reality is if you're playing and your strategy is one of where you will use your 2 ruckmen and play both, that's a significant strategy that, if is ineffective, really hampers the ball movement and success of the team. I mean, how many times did you see us try and find one of the big ruckmen when there was a behind and they just had absolutely no influence on the marking contest and the ball just rebounded? And I can't remember the last time I saw a team rebound the ball back into our defensive 50 for like 10 or 15 minutes. We just couldn't get the ball past there.
Yeah, and I mean, this is why they're the reigning premiers. I mean, Blitzars is an incredible player.
Tom Stewart as well.
Tom Stewart's an incredible player.
God, he's good.
Where do I find hit-outs to advantage? They tell me hit-outs, but I can't see to advantage. But yeah.
We smashed hit-outs.
And we do,
memory.
but just again, it's just they shark it better than us. And then, the way they body just against our ruckmans, like you said, going for kick-outs is just too much. It was Blitzarves, DeConning, Hawkins, Stewart, anyone. They just
look, it's to be expected. We have a young ruckman and we have a fringe ruckman that is known for inconsistencies. So it's a bit of a reality check to us around what the year will look like having those 2 playing. In saying that, the upside is those 2 have come close to winning us games as well. And I think
they did,
Yeah, against Melbourne.
Yeah,
they were probably the difference, I would say.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. It's a difficult one for me because I think maybe Phillips could be that type of player that would benefit like Wiedemann would from a bit of consistency and faith from the selection. And I mean, in his last 7 quarters, he's had 5 disposals and he's had 0 marks. So it's obviously not great, but maybe it is just worth saying, look, mate, we're going to back you in. Yeah. You have, throughout the year, you've been really important to us. But I think because he's been that fringe player, he's very quickly looked at as being someone that you would just drop and bring someone else in for. So maybe I'm actually probably more of the opinion, if he is physically right, then maybe we just stick with it. Like it has worked for most of the year.
Yeah, I guess the difference between him and Weid is that Weid's 25 and he's 31, 32. You know, and he's in the twilight, and isn't part of long term plans.
He did look all right when he pinched hit over the weekend, Wiedemann. Did you see that? He actually he was much more effective than Phillips was in the ruck for the time that he was there. Yeah,
he had a really good game. We'll get to the goods because there were some because we made it. We made it a respectable day, so don't expect a total darkness.
No, there were some goods. I agree.
Yeah, this is more of just an observation. So something we've been talking about quite a bit on the show is our centre bounce balance. So this week we had the most midfielders attend a centre bounce than we have previously. So we've had the biggest spread. And some interesting numbers from what I've seen here. So I'll go
Stringer 100%.
So Stringer 80% was there. Parrish 75, Setterfield 68, and then this is where it becomes interesting for me. Merritt 38%, Shield 20%, Hobbs 10%, and Perkins 10%. So Perkins had his first centre bounce time for the season. Caldwell didn't go in there at all. What I found interesting was Merritt not getting any time there, purely considering obviously he had the game off against Collingwood, and I was like, all right, he should probably get a fair bit of time. He'll be fresh and ready to go. But for whatever reason, they probably identified that we needed him in other positions where it was going off the wing or off half forward or wherever. And then Shield, who spent quite a fair bit of time forward and was very good. M40 did forward as well. But interesting to see some split now. I like that other guys are getting more time. I like that Hobbs and Perkins are getting a crack at it. And I mean, we may as well segue this into the good, but what a Herculean effort from Jake Stringer out of the middle, 4 goals. What was it? 26 touches and 20 contested. Like it's
hot.
That's as good as I've ever seen him. Just about. That's that back half of 2 years ago. We were talking about him going all
Australian-esque.
Yeah.
Ridiculous game.
Awesome. And the best thing for me about that is I'm like, he's still got it.
Yeah.
Because we've worried. We have worried. We've worried with the injury troubles that he's had, groin, and then we hear about the concussion. Then we're like, is this the plateau? Is this the tip off? Is this where he starts to drop off? No. Still got it. And, could have been a part of, maybe a famous win if more things went our way and we didn't blow up that first quarter. But, yeah, huge game.
Yeah, it just reminds you of him in those moments being, up there with some of the best players in the league. I mean, I remember in that 2021 year, for the second half of the year, he was rated as the number 1 rated player in the AFL. And, it was these centre bounce attendances for the year. There's been really no reason as to why Scott has needed to make change. We've been going equal with teams or more often than not beating them.
Yeah.
And we were clearly outsized. We needed something to change. He threw the magnets around. Stringer just made a difference as soon as he went in there. Turned the game, really. I mean, it got to a point where he just needed a few more people to come along with him.
Well, those 3 are, our biggest contested guys. Like I know Perkins is a tall player, but I wouldn't say he's quite as physical as those 3. But Stringer, Parrish, and Setterfield are they're our best contested players, you could say. And
will be really interested to see how Scott goes about assessing the best composition, because from a distance, it can be difficult to know the impact that someone like Jake Stringer can have on a game. And he's now, he even said in his press conference, I've known Stringer to be this type of player, but I never knew that he could have that kind of impact. And that, I feel like, could be a bit of a hallmark now for Scott to understand. Maybe Stringer does need to attend almost all centre bounces. He doesn't need to play in the middle. He can just rotate forward straight away. And then maybe a Zach Merritt, who starts on a half forward, can rotate into the middle and they can swap it around. But it was, that composition, I really like the idea of Parrish, Stringer, and Setterfield. That's like a mean-looking big boy midfield.
It's strong. It's definitely strong. Like, while Parrish isn't tall, he's bloody solid. And then Stringer and Setterfield are the 2 biggest guys who go through there for us. I quite liked what Hobbs did.
I thought he was great
when he had the chance.
He was so good. Probably one of the cleaner, aside from that kick out of bounds that he stuffed up. Throughout the game, his poise was elite.
Yeah.
In traffic, that I remember there was that time he got the handball in the middle of the ground with about 10 players around him, and more of them were Geelong players. And he went, grabbed the ball, looked outside, and then stepped inside and either gave the handball or the kick. But it almost seems like he's that type of player that when he goes to that higher level, his skill and his ability rises to that level. He doesn't seem like, from what I've seen in the VFL, he doesn't play nearly as well as he does in the games that I've seen in the AFL. He really seems like he rises to that level. So I was really happy to see that he picked up from where he left off.
Yeah, exactly. And look, he belongs at the level. It's good now that he's fit and ready to go. And he won't be he won't be coming out of that side anytime soon. So he looks good. Let's talk about Big Sammy Wiedemann. I'll tell you what, there was not a single person on this planet who coming into Sunday's game would have said that Sam Wiedemann would have kicked more goals than Jeremy Cameron. But the big chuff, 5 goals, and a really, really good performance. And we've had hope that he would, come on like Peter Wright has done for Essendon as a second club player. But this game for him, I think, will give him so much belief of going, look, we didn't win, but I kicked 5 goals against the reigning premiers, against some very, very good quality defenders. I held my own. I did what I had to do. Like, I think internally he would be feeling really good off that.
Yeah, it's great to see. I mean, 7 goals in the last 2 weeks. It's a really solid effort. Maybe 10 for the year off the back of 3 or 4 games. I mean, he's on track to kick 30 goals plus for the year, which is actually similar to what 2 Meter Peter kicked in his first year for us as well. You can tell he's still lacking a bit of confidence, which is completely fair enough. But I'm really eager to see whether confidence will allow for his hands to improve. I just still have some concerns around his ability to mark the ball in one grab.
9 goals.
9 goals. Do you notice that? I mean, it perplexes me that someone that tall and we've spoken about this before, from the debrief guy saying, but I'm just trying to figure out what it is, because you couldn't have got drafted as a number 9 pick being a double grabber. He had to have just be lacking confidence. I mean, it's a typical trait you see in forwards. They can't clunk it on that one grab when they're lacking confidence. So and you saw it with 2 Meter Peter. He was the exact same at Gold Coast. So maybe I'm just hoping that he can take those grabs.
Yeah. And he started, particularly around the ground. That's where I've been really impressed with him being able to actually do that. Sometimes this is just, the factor of what the defender's doing. Sometimes, and often is the case, is the factor of what kind of delivery he's getting, because let's be frank, there's been a lot of high balls going into Essendon forwards this season. But yeah, I do see what you mean. He's not perfect, but he's on the way.
His body work was good though.
Yeah.
There was a few contests where he seems like he's understanding how to use his body in the contested side of the game a little bit more. So I was, really happy with his game. A big difference. I mean, if you compare the absence of Jones compared to how he's slotted in, it's really sort of chalk and cheese at the moment as to who starts out of those two.
Yeah. No, Wees is just a more experienced player. Jones we know is a promising young guy, but he's just got to keep working on it. Just got to keep playing. Hit the gym. Just keep playing. Whether it's VFL or AFL, he's just got to keep putting in that time. But loved what Weeds did.
Yeah,
was really really happy about that. Performance from him. Who else do you want to shout out? We've got a few more here, but I'll let you pick one.
I thought Rids was amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't think that he was actually capable of defending that well, but Cameron was super quiet in the first half of that first quarter, and he then went to Hawkins, and Hawkins was nowhere to be seen either for the next period of time. And I don't think I think Hawkins kicked sort of his 5 on DZT, and then there was a period there where Ridley played on him, and it seemed as if no matter who Rids went to, he nullified really well. So I think it was a big, big step in the right direction for Ridley to not only he's showcased for years his attacking ability and his intercept marking, but his one-on-one defending has always been the thing that he's needed to improve on, and it was a pretty big statement.
Yeah. I thought he played really well for the amount of time the ball was in there. Got moved around, wasn't just on Cameron for the whole game. And there was that game he played against the Bulldogs where he played on Aaron Norton, and he, really took him to the cleaners. He's the one for me, going back to that earlier conversation about, key defenders going to that next level, being that real talisman in our defense. Right now, he is the one who is could be that guy for us.
He's primed for it.
He is primed for it. Obviously needs more. He needs support around him, but he is the guy that you go. He could be one of the one of the better defenders in the comp. One day. Like he won his second season or whatever it was. So yeah.
What is he still like 24?
He's bloody
24, 25.
He's not old. 24. Like yeah.
So young.
24, young, heaps of footy ahead of him. Yeah, I love what Rids is doing, and I think he's kind of fallen back a little bit in terms of at least like how much sort of credit he's sort of gotten over
hype. Yeah, not as much hype.
Not as much hype. Like he had his, he had the season where he was just, wheeling and dealing, free floating defender, jumping at the ball, getting lots of intercept marks. Now is a bit more responsibility on him, and he's had a bit of time now to kind of settle and focus on that. But yeah, I love what he does. I love what he does. Good player. I want to give Dylan Shield a shout out.
What a year he's putting together. Honestly,
yeah,
killing it.
What I'm loving about him is there's a composure about him that I didn't see a few years ago, particularly up forward. He's spending more time up forward now.
He's actually slotting almost everything that comes his way.
He's kicking goals, whereas you remember those first few seasons with us where
yips.
He was, but it just felt like he was just going 100 miles an hour at all times, and he was just slamming on the boot. Whereas now he's just like, no, I'm going to take that extra second, and he's using it well. Essendon high score involvements of the game with 11, and this back to that discussion about how we use our midfield minutes is like, all right. Shield is looking like he's developing a guy who can spend more time forward and be a real asset for us. And
he can also kick a goal from like 60 out as well.
He has got an absolute hoof on him if he needs to.
But yeah, I think in terms of CBA's centre bounce attendances, he could be a very easy swap with Perkins. Half forward, Perkins into the middle. He's clearly shown to this year that he can hit the scoreboard, but his score involvements, as you said, that's another thing altogether.
Yeah. I think it just obviously comes down to matchups and, is it a game where we want his, explosive speed coming out of the middle, or is it a game where we rather a big brute sort of play there? But his so this is his fifth or sixth season? 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth season with Essendon. He's kicked 6 goals for this season off 7 games. 3 the year before that. 3 the year before that, although he only played 8 games, he was injured. 2020, he kicked 4 goals. And 2019, which is probably his best season with Essendon, he kicked 9.
Yeah,
so he's doing way more up forward. And yeah, he's looking like a pretty reliable player to get on the end of them, kick a goal. And yeah, really, really good season from Dill. Really happy with it.
It's a testament to how Scott's got them playing. I mean, the one thing that's been really positive to see this year is not only the defensive side of our game. I mean, that was significantly torn apart yesterday by Geelong, but our ability to, against really good teams, I mean, to score 100 points against Geelong, that's a really, really good effort. Yeah. They're a really, really good team. And we've scored 100 points a few times this season. So our ability to involve other players, such as a Dylan Shield, is a testament to the way that Scott's got everyone playing. And I think we're going to probably see that more. I mean, Merritt's kicking goals. Parrish is probably the only one in the midfield group that hasn't hit the scoreboard as much as he would. But it seems like the midfield is finally contributing to the goal tally.
Definitely. Yeah. No, I'm really happy with the spread and just the fact that we're just, we're scoring well. And that was the biggest score we've conceded for the season. I'm fairly certain it's the first time we've conceded over 100.
Yeah.
So, that was why Gary Lyon had us in his little premiership window graphic, just saying, they're doing everything right. And we definitely are trending it forward. I'd like to give Nick Martin a shout out as well. Like, barring that one
Mr. Consistent
painful turnover, man, kid just keeps on playing, just keeps on doing it, gets his 20, gets his goals.
He's probably the most underrated player in the AFL at the moment. He could very easily be All-Australian wing at the moment.
He could get there. He could seriously get there. Kid's got so much talent. His work in traffic, his contested work, I think,
ability to hit the scoreboard almost every game.
Yeah, just phenomenal player. And
his hands,
Yeah.
his overhead marking is becoming really reliable as well. Like he's probably the only one on the team that took a contested mark yesterday, aside from Weidman.
Yeah. No, he's. I love Nick Martin. He's such a good player.
I think we got to mention Tipper as well.
Well, he was. My next one was going to say, what did you make of?
Loved it.
Tip's performance.
Just that missing piece of the puzzle that we've been lacking this year, which is just a small forward that has the composure to create opportunities and score. And one of the great things, I mean, there was a couple of tackles that just were not rewarded, which we could talk about, but his defensive work was fantastic.
Yeah.
But just every time he got near the ball, he made an impact and had a score involvement. And the one thing that you can rely on with Tipper is he doesn't need to necessarily score for for him to have an impact. You know, he set up 2 or 3 goals. You know, he missed one and he scored one. And this is sort of his first game back, right? So it just goes to show, you know, he ran out the full game. Ideally, we haven't heard anything from an injury point of view. So I really do think at this point in time, he's going to be super difficult to keep out of the team for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, you could see just the skill difference where he gets the ball and he's just able to take that moment and just hit a lace out target inside 50. Like everyone knows the highlight reel from him actually kicking goals, but as you said, just getting the ball at half forward and going, oh, yep, there's Weeds, there's Jake, whoever they're kicking to, and just hitting a guy like lace out.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of players in Essendon who can do that, you know, taking the pace off the ball.
Lower their
and
eyes.
just go and hit that absolute dart of a pass. Yeah, he was awesome. Just great getting more match minutes into him, getting his fitness, getting back to the speed of the game as much as possible. So, yeah, no, he was great. What did you make of Archie Perkins' game?
A bit of an arch game in general. He seems to really fade in and out of games. And when he gets the ball, he's so impactful. Every time the ball goes near him and it's in his hands, you know it's going to more often than not revolve in a score involvement. And the same I could say to Caldwell. I feel like both of them, we have such a bright future with both of them in the team because just when both of them get the ball, their disposal and their ability to hit the right target usually always results in some form of score. I mean, great to see him. No one, I don't think, has tackled Arch to the ground this year as of yet. I don't think anyone's even stuck a tackle on him.
Not in a one-on-one. Like there's been a couple of group tackles that have taken him down.
Oh, you need a group to take him down.
You need a group to take him down. But yeah, you're right. He is so hard. He is so hard to tackle when he's standing up like that. All I would say about Archie is, yeah, I love what he does with ball in hand, but I want to see more from him without ball in hand.
Yeah, he looks a bit lacking defensively with some of his work.
Yeah.
Just slow.
Yeah, and like he does lay some tackles when he gets there, but yeah, would like to see a little bit more effort to be pushing back for that contest, whatever, you know, whether it be marking or a grand contest. You know, being physical when you don't have the ball, because like you said, when he's got it, it's awesome. But I feel like that's the area of the game he really needs to work on compared to, you know, if you're comparing to Caldwell, who is just so physical without it. And I think that is just what he's lacking from his game at the moment. And yeah, you know, still incredibly young, incredibly talented player, but that's what I'd like him to really just get stuck in and be a little bit more of a mongrel, because, you know, he is a pretty boy, and there are times he does play a little bit like a pretty boy.
Yeah, I agree.
Just get a bit rough, get a bit dirty, get a bit mongrel.
It's interesting. When he played a few games through the midfield last year, I actually saw that mongrel in him. When he was in and around the ball, he was laying really strong tackles and being quite physical. I feel like a big part of it also is that playing it high half forward, when you're in space, which is generally where you're getting the ball, you're sort of one-on-one and the ball's either kicked to your advantage or not. If it's not kicked to your advantage, you're usually trailing behind your defender, and it can, if you're not lightning, like Arch isn't very fast.
No.
And which was surprising to me because he looks like he's sort of got the makings of being someone who's quite quick, but he's quite kind of steady, and he doesn't have that closing speed, which kind of can make it look like he's meandering behind opponents at times.
Yeah.
But it would be very interesting to see the difference because when he is around the ball, it seems like he does what needs to be done. It's sort of just, as you said, that stuff kind of off the ball defensively, how close he tracks his man and how much he, I guess, places a level of importance on being accountable to his defender as well.
Yeah.
Is probably the side of his game that does need improvement.
Yeah, definitely. And that's always going to come with a young player. I guess with what you're saying, being a half forward, being caught a few steps behind, it was the criticism of Langers when he was early in his career.
Correct.
Everyone was like, oh man, this guy's so slow. He's never there. It's like, yeah, look, sometimes he's getting beaten by a dashing half back, but sometimes, if you're starting a metre or 2 metres behind a guy in the AFL, there are a few players who can make up that ground unless the person you're chasing is incredibly slow. So yeah,
But his kicking is amazing.
It's awesome.
He will one day be a super damaging player through the middle.
Yeah.
Almost every time this year he's kicked the ball inside 50, he's hit a really smart target and he can kick it pretty far as well, which helps.
Yeah, no, he's got plenty of talent and yeah, just him and a lot of other guys are just keep improving. Feels like they're going in the right direction. Feels like we are as well. I guess I did speak about Merritt a little bit. Yeah, played plenty of tackles. I guess just not playing the guts, didn't get a heap of it. Sam Durham has been offered a week suspension by the MRO for his sling tackle. You're watching on telly. Did you see it? Do you have any thoughts on that? I've only seen minor of it. Like I was at the game and, it's the move we don't want to see. Is it soft? A little bit, but it's, if Zach got rubbed out for a week, I feel like this might be one as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any appealing these at the moment. If you are slinging the player over, as they have said, and it didn't help the Blitzarves drop the ball 2 minutes beforehand.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, in all fairness, Sammy Durham's probably had a couple of weeks that he would like to forget. So maybe this suspension's actually coming at a good time for him to just have a week off.
Yeah.
Just to rest. But yeah, I think
2 down games, have a week off, get back and be ripe for Brisbane.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it is what it is. I think he will get suspended.
Yeah. Yeah. Going on past evidence, I feel like they've set the precedent is the word I was looking for. The precedent has been set. Unfortunately, I think he's going to miss. Anything else from you on this game, Jess? I know you've got to leave early. Goods or bads? Anything you'd like to bring up? Because I feel like we've covered most of it so far.
The only other part of it was I just feel like that game was a really sort of illuminating game to just give a bit of perspective to the difference in the tiers of quality within our team. So I feel like Mass, Snelling and Hind, I mean, Snell obviously only came on for 10 minutes, but I feel like just those 3 guys were really found out over the weekend. And I guess it's a little bit sad for me with Hindy. I just kind of feel like he's probably just not at the level eventually. Like I can't see him sort of being in our team sort of 2 years' time from now when we've got a few more people coming in.
Okay.
But other than that, we should be really proud. I know a lot of people say, we lost the game in the first 10 minutes and Geelong took their foot off the pedal, but it's not how it works in football. The fact is we kept challenging. They're a great team. They stood up every time that we challenged them and they kicked a couple of goals to push out that lead. But in reality, if it was this time last year, it probably would have been more than a 70 point. It could have been close to 100, and I was expecting it to almost go that way. But for the team to continue fighting and for the team to just put an emphasis on the contest to try and win that, win the ball back, and the attacking side of our game was really, really good. So, I probably have us this year. The next 2 weeks are going to be really interesting because I feel like Brisbane and Port are probably 2 teams that are sort of in and around where we are at, where I rate us as a team. I've got Port similar to us. I probably rated Brisbane a little bit higher. I've got them in my top 4. Yeah.
And then in your 5 to 10 bracket, that's where I've got Port with us. I'd say sort of in that space.
Yeah, so the next 2 weeks will be a really good insight as to where we're at. We've played arguably the 3 best teams in the competition.
Yep.
And look, we beat Melbourne. We should have beaten Collingwood.
Yeah.
And
that's the one that hurts, really.
In all honesty, if it wasn't for, a couple of bad turnovers, we were in that game against Geelong and it didn't blow out. So we can match it against really good sides. It's probably in each one of those games, aside from the Melbourne game and the St Kilda game, only one quarter that we haven't really played that well. And unfortunately, against good teams, when you drop the bundle for one quarter, and we don't just slightly drop it, we totally drop our bundle, which is going to happen. They're going to punish you. But in comparison to last year, you can see the game plan, you can see the strategy, and you can see where the club's moving. So I wouldn't get too concerned about any sort of results this year if you keep seeing the team consistently rock up and play the way that they have since the beginning of the year. Yep. You know that we're sort of moving in the right direction.
Definitely. I'm disappointed to get a loss, but I'm bullish on where we're going. And all things considered, wasn't the worst day out. I think we all predicted to have a loss and not have 4 points, but we'll go again next week. And this is 2 really important weeks coming up because, I think if we are going into Dreamtime with 4 losses in a row, I think we're going to be feeling pretty flat about it all. But, if we're able to jag one of these wins on the road against, good opposition, then, finals, we're in the hunt. We're absolutely in the hunt.
They couldn't have made it harder with being on the road as well for both those games.
Yeah, but this is the hardest stretch of footy that we've got for the season. We got a massive win over Melbourne to start it off. Then we've had a couple of losses. Now we've got to try and steady the ship and get a result to go our way before, the draw softens us up. But the way footy is, playing North and West Coast twice doesn't guarantee 4 wins. We've got to be in every single game. And
it doesn't mean anything beating those guys. You want to know leading into the final series that we've beaten teams that are going to be in the final.
Exactly. I don't want to see us fall into 8th position knowing that we've battered some garbage sides, knowing that we've done nothing against the teams in the 8. Yeah. But if we can get a win in these next couple, anything's possible.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. We'll be back. I'll be back with some hot takes after this. Jesse, you've got to go. Thank you for joining me. We're back after this.
Peace out.
This halftime break is brought to you by Liquorland. Pop into your local Liquorland today and pick up all your favourite drinks like the new Smithy's Draft Cans, which is available in a 6-pack and a carton of 24 at Liquorland. Jesse, have you gotten around the Smithies?
I have. A wise person who actually runs a podcast that I know said it was a perfect house party beer. Okay. So if you're ever happy to bring one there and lose a couple, they're great value for money and taste pretty good.
They do taste pretty good. Liquorland have all your drinks for when the siren calls. Liquorland, from the land you love. Please drink responsibly. Welcome back, everybody. It's time for some hot takes. Flying solo, which is, I haven't done a solo pod. Now, Derek is in the studio, our amazing producer. I haven't done a solo pod, Derek, since, I want to say, either 2019 or 2020. And we had a really bad loss. And I sat in my front room in North Melbourne. And I think I spoke for 35 minutes straight, ranting about how effed the club was. And that was it. And that was my podcast. I probably had 3 beers whilst doing it. And I remember the next day, there was a lot of support from people being like, oh, Rob, well done for doing the solo pod. But it's been a while since I've had one. So it's fun to do a bit of solo action. So listeners, hot takes. Thank you everyone for sending them through. Can't play them all. Some inappropriate, some have audio issues, but thank you everyone who contributes. We love to do this segment. Of course, big old language warning. So let's get stuck into them. The first one is Rory. Thank you, Rory.
Hi, boys. Rory from Edinburgh, Scotland here. That was an embarrassing one today. Our defenders really need to get in the gym and start eating their Weetabix if they want to compete with elite forwards like Tom Hawkins. He was just ragdolling those defenders today. Got to do better than that. Even if it means doubling up on him, got to do something. Midfield just constantly gave the ball away. Aimless handballs, loose kicks, and the fact we lost by 30. If we had just been a bit more careful in possession, who knows what could have happened. But all in all, if you said at the start of the season we'd be 4-3 after 7 weeks, I'd have probably bitten your hand off for that. So we just need to start learning the lessons, get the wins on the board against poorer teams, and hopefully it'll be enough.
Well said, Rory. Well said. Yeah, if you said we'll be 4-3 at this point in the season, I think everyone would have been very happy with that. They probably would have predicted a win over St Kilda instead of Melbourne to swap the ledger around. But yeah, all things considered, I think we're going to be okay with that. The next one is from Super Chad. Thank you, Super Chad.
Fucking Geelong again beating us. But 28 points or whatever the margin was in the end, not too bad. But the most important thing is up the fucking plains.
Beautiful. Love that from Super Chat. There was a kick to kick on the ground after the game, Derek, and I haven't done a kick to kick in a long time. And Joel, who comes in here, brought his footy, so he ran to the ground. And I stood out there, and as I was standing out there, someone gave me a Go Plains, but I didn't realize where it came from. I was sort of looking around. There was 10,000 people on the ground, footy's flying everywhere, and I'm like, who yelled Go Plains at me? But anyway, got to Go Plains, which I love. Next one's from Nobber. Thank you, Nobber.
After the performance I saw today, I think it's time the lid goes back on. I think we get the tightest bit of tape possible, put that around the lid, so make sure that the lid never fucking comes off ever again. Not ever again does the lid come off with the Essendon Football Club.
I like it, Nobber. I like it. For the people on YouTube, here's my little water bottle, and I'll put that lid back on there. Keep it nice and tight. Let's leave that there until later in the season. I agree with you, Nobber. Let's keep it firmly on until we break that drought. I think the lid should stay there. The next one is from Nicky Martin Bangs.
G'day, boys. Obviously shit not to get the win, but some impressive performances from the youngsters, including Ben Hobbs, Jai Caldwell, but not the least, our mate Nick Martin, who had the most outstanding performance of the day. Thought I'd just send in a theme song for the young man. Good on you, Nick.
Probably didn't have the audio quality we were hoping for there, Derek, but we appreciate a bit of Ricky Martin. We love that. Next one is from Sashit or Sachet. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, mate, but thank you for sending this one in.
G'day, lads. First off, just wanted to say, loving the pod. I'm a first-time listener this season because I've just been looking for footy podcasts to listen to and came across yours and I've been loving it. I don't know why I haven't been listening sooner. First off, I guess we get the elephant out of the room. The first quarter was not very good. We were just completely blown out of the water. When Hawkins is getting that kind of service, and just Geelong forwards in general, when they're getting that kind of service, it's very hard to stop, and it showed on the scoreboard. But honestly, after the first quarter, I thought we were pretty good. You can obviously see that Brad Scott's taking the team in a very good direction. Our ball movement is very good. Our defence, apart from the first quarter, of course, it was pretty good as well, even considering we were undersized. Our forward setup, we were putting pressure, we were tackling. It was really good to see Weid kick 5 goals. Stringer was huge all day, 4 goals as well. Probably the best game he's played for us, including the 2021 season. And the young guys, they were pretty good as well. Obviously disappointing to lose, but I think there's a lot of positives to take out of that. And yeah, looking forward to the next couple of weeks. Go Plains.
Well said. I agree with you there. Plenty of good to take out of the game. Obviously a very, very poor start, which we have spoken about. And yeah, my favourite thing to say on the podcast. Well said, well said. Shano. Thanks, Shane. Let's hear the next one.
G'day, boys. Just getting my head around the fact that on Monday we were in third position on the ladder, and then on Sunday we're ninth. But there's a bit to work with us. We'll be all right. Boys, I just don't know if you follow Test cricket much, but a few years back during an Ashes series, England captain Alistair Cook batted for days and days and just made a shit ton of runs to the point where the Australian cricketing public were just sick of watching him bat. Anyway, when the series finished, there were people at the airport to physically watch him get on the plane to leave the country, just so we made sure he was out of the country and we didn't have to see him play anymore. I can't help but think that when, Pendlebury, Sidebottom, Hawkins, when they retire, I'd like to be in those list managers' rooms to make sure they delete their names off the actual team list, because I can't deal with those boys anymore. They've been kicking our ass for 15 years, and there's nothing we can do about it because we know it's going to happen and we've never had an answer. But anyway, we'll be right. Go Dons.
That was beautiful. Shane, do you follow Test cricket, Derek?
No, I don't, but I'm with that guy.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. He's bang on.
Yeah, absolutely bang on, Shane. That was beautifully put. Very, very happy with that. Next one's from Lurker. We love these from Lurk.
Bombers begin badly. Backs befuddled by Buffhead's bag full. Brad's boys battle bravely on the backup. Packo personifies professionalism. Wiedemann wonderful. Umpires useless.
Beautiful. Just our weekly poem there from Lurker. From Lurker, we'll go to Perfecto. Bit of a different one here.
We are Essendon, the shittest team of all. We are Essendon, we never win the ball. We lose first quarters in almost every game. I am in so much pain. Our banners never fly at dawn or dark because we fucking suck. Look, jokes aside, it was a decent effort against the reigning premiers, and Jakey Stringer, he was good.
Hilarious. That got me. That absolutely got me today. That's so funny. This is the I'm in pain line. I'm in pain. I think that is something that most of our supporters feel. That is a lot of pain. We definitely sympathise. A few more to go. Next one's from Anthony. Thank you, Anthony.
G'day, fellas. Tough day at the G today. It was like watching the St Kilda game all over again. It was always going to be hard after the short break. Hawkins too good. No Laverde hurt us. Good to see Stringer and Wiedemann show up. Phillips missing chest marks. Just feel like our mids have just been a bit non-existent last couple games. Just no run going forward. Anyway, Port up next. Hopefully a good break for the boys. Go Plains.
Thanks, Anthony. Yeah, it definitely has felt at times that our midfield has gone absent against some quality opposition. But yeah, I thought to the boys' credit this weekend that they really did, wrestle control back in that area for good passages of the game. But yeah, unfortunately, the damage had been done. Who have we got next? We've got 5-goal Weeds.
I thought that marijuana wasn't addictive, but I'll tell you what, I am hooked on the weeds.
Don't mind that. Yep. Don't mind that at all. We do love the big chufter down here, Mr. Sammy Wiedemann. Next one's from Optimistic Don. Thank you.
Yeah, g'day, boys. It's the Optimistic Don here. Yeah, look, I didn't mind that. I didn't like it, but I didn't mind it. The guys kept it entertaining. Stringer, Wiedemann, they're still kicking plenty of goals. Sort of reminded me of the old days with Matty Lloyd when we'd get smashed, but he'd still kick 8, and there'd still be something to enjoy about a game like that. Yeah, look, Geelong, good side. It was always going to be tough. That first quarter was fucking woeful, but apart from that, I thought we tried hard. Last year we would have dropped our heads, but this year doesn't look like that's happening much. And for that, I think we're going in the right direction. And kudos to Brad Scott and the coaching team. They're obviously still trying to get the boys up and running, despite being down in the early stages. So, yeah, I think not a good result, but good signs.
Definitely good signs there. Optimistic, Don, and plenty to be optimistic about despite the result. Of course. All right, 2 to go. Jimmer. Thank you, Jimmer.
Hey, guys. Disappointing loss. These slow starts are getting quite tiresome, to be honest. Just want to give a shout out to BZT. First half he was getting absolutely mauled against Tom Hawkins, had that absolute nightmare kick in the second quarter, but credit to him, his third quarter and fourth quarter, he ran the game out, didn't let it get to him and didn't drop his head. And I think there was a play in the third quarter where he ran off his man, who was probably Jeremy Cameron at the time, and to stop a goal and the ball coming into the 50. Just think that's really important for the guys, for the group. Just a next play mentality. Moving forward, you look at teams like Collingwood, who it doesn't matter where they are, they just feel they're within a chance. And I think that those types of plays that are really important moving forward. And I hope that gets highlighted within the coaching group and amongst the playing group. And just thought that was worth noting, and hope that BZT doesn't cop too much flack amongst the supporters. But otherwise, go Dons.
Thank you, Jimmer. I certainly agree with what you said there. Look, it was a incredibly tough ask for Zerk. I said to a mate earlier in the game, basically said to him, if you're going to put a bet on this week, I think Tom Hawkins is a good shout for a big bag of goals because, 330 game, 100 whatever kilo Tom versus 30 game, 90 kilo BZT. It's, it is men against boys, and it's experience, it's size, it's strength. It's just everything that he's got going for him. And, as I've said several times in this episode, Tom Hawkins is an seriously iconic player of the game over the last 10 years. And he's hurt a lot of people. He's kicked a lot of goals. He's an awesome player. And as that gentleman said earlier, I think it was Shane, I'll be looking forward to the day he retires because he won't kick any more goals on Essendon. So look at it that way. Last one's from Lockie. Thank you very much, Lockie.
G'day, lads. Hope you're well. Just a few things I wanted to touch on from the game yesterday, albeit a disappointing loss. I think Nick Martin, growing up in Perth, we went to the same school, same local pub, that type of shit. Like, it was a bit of a novelty last year getting around him, but I think yesterday I really realised how fucking good this guy is for a guy that we picked up for next to nothing. He bobs up for his 20 touches every week, kicks a goal, and just every time he goes near it, I feel like something good happens. And the same again yesterday, apart from that one fucking handball backwards, which was, a real momentum killer. I think he's getting him for like I said, next to nothing's been a real bonus for this club. And if you had said yesterday, Jakey Stringer would kick 4 and 26 and Sammy Wiedemann would bob up for 5, I would have said there's no way we're losing that game. But it is what it is. Listening to Brad after the game is always very comforting. I love the direction the club's heading in. And I think for the first time in a long time, the optimism I'm feeling is actually real. So, yeah, it's exciting times. And, yeah, go Dons.
Love that, Lockie. Firstly, on Nick, totally agree. Just what a phenomenal pickup this kid's been. Amazing debut season, debut game, funnily enough, against Geelong as well. And then just the level that he's continued to go to this year. Second year blues is real in the AFL for a lot of players, but it doesn't seem like this guy's got it. And, prior to Nick's arrival, we definitely lacked winger players. We didn't have players that were damaging that position. But what Nick's doing this season, playing in that wing role, I think is incredible. He ticks all the boxes as we discussed a bit earlier. And yeah, man, I feel the optimism too. I'm loving what Brad Scott is saying. I love the way he presents himself and the messaging that we're getting from the club. It's the most clear and direct it's been in, God, hard to remember in my adult life, albeit, I haven't been an adult as long as some of our other fans have. But yeah, love the way the club's going, love the direction, and it's just about making sure that we keep ourselves competitive over the next few weeks. To repeat what Jesse and I spoke about at the end there prior to the break, it's just, we can't be going into the Richmond game with 4 losses in a row. I know that this was an honourable loss. People might say it was as well with the Collingwood game, but I don't want to be in that position that we're in 4 losses in a row. We are a bit down on ourselves. Players are starting to turn, well, not players, fans are starting to turn a little bit. I want to be getting a win out of one of these 2 games, showing that the Melbourne game wasn't a fluke and that we are competitive with the real good sides. And then, let's open it up. Let's win Dreamtime. It's been God knows how long. And I'd love nothing more than to see the Bombers get it done on May 20, which is a very special day for me, of course. And my God, I'm sick of losing to Richmond. I'm just going to have a look at now. Dreamtime at the G history. How many times have they beaten us? Derek, guess a number between 1 and 15 for how many times Richmond have beaten us in a row.
Oh, 15?
It might be that. It might be that. Essendon versus Richmond history. All right. So the last time we won Dreamtime was 2014. Was the last time we won. The last time we beat Richmond. Let's have a look. Gee, we're going back a bit here. Was it 2014? Lost to Richmond, defeated Essendon, Yep. The last time we beat Richmond was round 11, 2014. Too long. It's been too damn long. And yeah, Richmond looking pretty ordinary right now. I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to enact a little bit of revenge after they've had, a dynasty and have certainly put us to the sword and shamed us. And hey, we're on the up. So I'd love to rub it in a few Richmond supporters' faces come Dreamtime. But first things first, we've got 2 big games coming up interstate before then, and definitely need to get a win out of one of those games. That's going to wrap it up for me for this evening. Thanks to everyone who has listened through the show. Thank you, Jesse, who was here earlier. Thank you, Derek, for co-chairing the hot takes with me. Did you have a favourite of any of those?
Oh, definitely the guy who sang the song and said about the pain.
Yeah, the pain, yeah.
That pain, it really came right home to me there, being a St Kilda supporter.
Yep.
Oof.
Yep. No, I like that. So thank you, everyone, as always. If you want to listen to Thursday's show, sign up to become a premium member, $4.99 a month or $42 for the whole year. Appreciate everyone who's there. You get access to our exclusive Discord server, which has awesome chat, lots of fun stuff. The game day thread is wild. There's definitely a lot of angry people on there throughout the game, which I love. What else? Merch caps are coming very soon. Heaps of delays on those, unfortunately, but they'll be here very soon. Beanies and scarves still available as well. Also, our print-on-demand stuff, all the T-shirts, hoodies, all that stuff. You can get that all year round, all good to go. Go buy a Packo. He's killing it at the moment. Go buy yourself a Packo and a T-shirt, just like Mert's been wearing around lately. I think that's all I've got for my wrap for the announcements. Anything else I'm missing? I'm going to look here. No. Sponsors, yep. Thank them. Thank Primo. Thank you, everybody. Get on the YouTube as well. I'm trying to grow the YouTube audience. If you haven't subscribed, get on there. It helps to grow. I'm on TikTok, so if you're 12, get on there. It's a strange place for me. I like the old TikToks. I'm new. I'm new to that world. It's I don't know. There's a lot of dancing going on that I just don't quite understand. Anyway, that's all from me for tonight. Thanks, everyone. Go Plains. We'll be back Thursday. Premium preview of our Port Adelaide game. Till then, see ya. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Sash, and thanks to Liquorland, who are proud partners of the show. Liquorland have all your drink needs for when the siren calls. Liquorland, from the land you love. Please drink responsibly.